You've heard it before. That whisper, not loud, not urgent, not logical, just a knowing that asked for no proof, a feeling so deep, your mind could never touch it. It wasn't fear. It wasn't desire. It wasn't the echo of memory or a conditioned reflex. It was intuition. The purest presence of who you are, untouched by data, untouched by fear, untouched by the programming of the world. You don't need to learn intuition. You only need to unlearn what made you forget, because you were born with it. As a child, you didn't analyze whether someone was sincere. You felt it. You didn't calculate which way to go. You just knew. But then, you grew up, and the world told you, don't dream. Only reason is reliable. You need evidence. And so you placed your intuition on the table, cut it open, studied it, until you could no longer hear it. From then on, you began to live from the mind, no longer from the depth within. Your mind is brilliant. It has its place. But when the path turns dark, the mind doesn't know the way. It only looks backward. Intuition is different. It is the soul's compass. It leads you, not to the safe path, but to the right one. That's why, no matter how flawless your plan may be, there's always something deep inside you that knows. Knows this person isn't right. Knows this path feels off. Knows you're walking away from your truth. You can't explain the feeling, but it's there, like an echo from a place deep within. The problem isn't that you lack intuition. The problem is you've gotten used to ignoring it. And every time you do, it doesn't disappear. It simply grows quiet, waiting for you to return. But then, there comes a moment when everything outside begins to fall apart. Plans collapse. Someone you trusted breaks your heart, and life takes you to a crossroads where no map makes sense anymore. That's when you remember. There was something that used to guide you long before you knew how to name it. A gentle voice you once ignored, a subtle feeling you once dismissed, and then it hits you. Your intuition never left you. It was you who walked away from yourself. Because intuition doesn't come from the mind. It rises from a deeper place. A place where you are in direct contact with the energy of life itself. David R. Hawkins called it a knowing beyond logic, a higher frequency of awareness, where truth needs no explanation. A space so still that everything becomes clear, and when you're connected to it, you no longer hesitate. You don't need hours of analysis. You just know, and you move. That's where your most powerful decisions have come from. Not from spreadsheets and logic, but from a moment of unshakable silence. Joe Dispenza said, "When you become still, you step out of the noise of chaos and access information from the quantum field, where all possibilities exist." That is intuition. It doesn't guess, it receives. Intuition is your direct connection to the intelligence of the universe, a space where you no longer need to know how things will happen, because you are aligned with the flow of life itself. But to hear it, you need something this modern world is quickly forgetting: stillness. You must relearn how to be quiet within your own mind, to not react, to not let fear take the wheel, to not let the noise out there drown out the whisper within. You must sit with yourself, not to chase an answer, but to return to that deep, wordless knowing inside you. Because intuition doesn't shout, it only whispers, and you can only hear it when you are quiet enough. When you begin to return to stillness, something strange happens. The questions inside you start to fade, not because you found all the answers, but because you no longer need to know everything. You begin to trust, not blindly, but with a deep, unshakable sense of connection. You stop asking, "Am I on the right path?" Because even if the road ahead is foggy, you feel that you're right where you're meant to be. Greg Braden once said, "Intuition isn't some mystical phenomenon. It is the most advanced technology of the human nervous system, a bridge connecting us to the intelligence of the universe." And you can rebuild that bridge by no longer doubting yourself, by no longer running from your real emotions, by no longer reacting to the world in haste. You begin to slow down, but not grow weaker. You grow deeper and sharper. Because when intuition leads, every step, though quiet, carries the force of the universe behind it. You become different, and you don't have to say a word. People feel it. You don't need to prove anything. Your energy becomes the answer. And then, the miracles begin. Not because you've mastered every law of the universe, but because you've remembered how to listen to what you've always known. Intuition won't tell you how to be like someone else. It won't hand you a step-by-step plan. It won't soothe your ego. It only does one thing. It brings you back to the path your soul chose long ago. Even if that path is hard, even if it leads you away from the crowd. But one thing is certain, you are no longer lost, because you are now living from the highest compass within, the place where your heart, your mind, and your soul align. And that place is never wrong. You begin to realize everything in your life, the falls, the losses, the moments of self-doubt, none of it was failure. They were tests of your loyalty to your own intuition. The universe wasn't punishing you. It was asking, do you have the courage to trust what you feel, even when nothing guarantees you're right? Will you choose what aligns with your soul, rather than what feels safe to your ego? And it's in those very moments, those misunderstood choices, those seemingly reckless leaps, that you make quantum jumps toward the most authentic version of yourself. Dolores Cannon called it the path of the soul, a blueprint you chose, long before you entered this physical world. But to walk it, you cannot follow someone else's map. You must turn inward and reactivate the deepest navigation system within you, your intuition. And every time you do, with every quiet decision, every small step in alignment, you shorten the distance between you and your soul. You no longer live to please others. You live to mirror truth into the world. You speak words that aren't rehearsed because they come from a place beyond language. You look into someone's eyes and you feel their pain. You enter a room and sense its energy. You stand at a crossroads and know where to go. Not because you are clever, but because you have become still enough to hear the real calling. Life never disconnected from you. You were simply buried beneath the noise, the programming, the fear. But every time you choose stillness, you reopen the channel between you and the field of universal intelligence. Osho once said, "Intuition is the third eye. It does not see the world, it sees through it. And once that eye opens, you no longer need to follow the path of another, because now you are becoming the path. And then you begin to live like someone who remembers, no longer memorizing, no longer imitating. You remember that everything you've ever needed, the answers, the direction, the protection, the love, has always been within you, waiting for the day you became still enough to feel it, not in the noise of the world, not in the validation of others, but in the deep layer of silence where intuition never left. You look back on the years gone by. How many times did you feel something was off, but followed logic anyway? How many times did you sense their insincerity, but stayed? How many times did you hear the calling, but silenced it because it didn't make sense? And how much pain, confusion, and heartbreak came not from the world, but from the moments you betrayed your own intuition? But now, you no longer blame yourself. You understand. It was all part of the return, a sacred journey to relearn how to trust yourself, to lift one by one the veils that kept your soul from seeing clearly. Eckhart Tolle calls it the existential awakening, when you stop living from the story of who you think you are and start living from the purity of presence, where intuition becomes your compass. And something strange happens. When you do this, the world around you shifts. Things begin to align, not because you're in control, but because you're radiating a frequency that cannot be mistaken. You walk without hesitation, you speak without rehearsal, you feel without needing proof, because you're no longer looking for right outside of you. You've become right from within. Intuition is never wrong. It does not lie. It does not delay. It does not fear. It only knows truth, and truth sets you free. And now that you've gone far enough to see, everything you were searching for was never out there. Not in someone else's advice, not in the books you read, not in the sharp arguments your mind strained to prove, but in a quieter place, a deeper place, a more honest place, where there is no noise, no judgment, only a faint, unmistakable calling. Come home. Come home to your intuition, not as some mystical ability, but as the natural state of a soul set free. You begin to live by that rhythm, with no reason, no permission, no need to be understood or approved, because you know, not know as a fact, but know as a vibration etched into your very cells, a certainty that needs no defense, a light that never had to be switched on, because it was never off. You look at life, even the painful parts, and you know it all had a reason. It was all guided. It was all a signal. If only you dared to listen. No longer a life you try to control, but a life you co-create with the universe. With intuition as your invisible compass, guiding you through the chaos without ever losing your way. You no longer seek the light. You become the light. You no longer ask, what should I do? You become the presence in which the right thing reveals itself. You no longer beg for something to arrive. You know what you seek has always been seeking you, waiting for you to remember. And then, in the stillness of this very moment, you feel it so clearly, a homecoming, quiet, unflashy, without drama, yet powerful enough to dissolve every fear, every doubt, every moment you've ever abandoned yourself. You have returned to what you truly are. And intuition is the first voice of the soul. It has never been wrong. You just needed to relearn how to listen. And if you carry only one thing from all of this, let it be this promise, that you will never again betray the voice within, no matter what they say, no matter how loud the world becomes, no matter how hard the ego screams. You will listen, you will trust, and you will walk without hesitation, without regret, without turning back. Because once you choose to live from intuition, you no longer chase miracles. You become one.